Noah Madu is here, and she's going to give us some health news. Welcome to In Focus
Hello,
again.
Ndimiake.
What do you have for us?
Well, today we're looking at the world water supply, and the 5th World Water Forum is taking place this week in Istanbul, Turkey. The forum is held every 3 years and brings together government officials, water experts, and sanitation and climate change professionals. The forum explores ways to achieve water security, manage water disasters, and deal with climate change. The forum's Secretary General, Oktay Tabasaran, says that governments must secure freshwater supplies for generations to come.
Your challenge is to present decision makers with some way forward so that the voice of water does not get drowned out by calls to fix the economies of the world. Your challenge is to set the foundations to give a future to water and give water to future generations.
The United Nations observes World Water Day this Sunday. Just last week, the UN released a report offering a grim assessment of the world's water supply, especially in developing countries. Joining us to talk about the importance of water to all of us is Paul Edwards, his Senior Advisor for Water Sanitation and Hygiene with UNICEF. Mr. Edwards, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
First and foremost, let me have your take on the issue of access to safe drinking water. What is the status in general of the water supply in the world?
At the moment, the world is on track to reach the Millennium Development Goal for safe water supply. And for the first time, the number of people without a safe water supply has come below the 1 billion mark. But on sanitation, it's more of a concerning situation with over 2.5 billion people not having access to safe sanitation. So the whole issue is a major area of concern. And on water supply, although the world is on track, Africa is not on track to reach the Millennium Development Goal. And this is where one of the major worries is.
So what are some of the progress that have been made since 2005 going on to 2015 when we talk about the MDGs?
Well, as I say, the water is on track, and since 1990, some 1.6 billion people have gained access to a safe water supply. And so we need to see this progress continue so that we reach the Millennium Development Goal. On sanitation, though, we need to accelerate progress, but there has been some encouraging signs over the last few years. For example, last year was the International Year of Sanitation, and during that year, ministers in Africa, for example, pledged their support to allocating 0.5% of their GDP towards sanitation and hygiene. There are also new methodologies that are coming in on sanitation, whereby communities are taking a collective approach to solving their sanitation problems. So these aspects of progress are good, and we're supporting them to continue.
Now, a report released last week from the UN called Water in a Changing World says that population explosion as well as climate change are really straining the water supply. Now, how does this affect the issue of access to safe drinking water?
Well, this is a very important issue. As populations increase, the demands on water increase greatly. And it's not just for water supply for drinking, but also for the many other uses. And so we have to sort out a complex collection of uses for the water resources. For example, in countries like Bangladesh, they use a lot of the groundwater for irrigation. And so this also puts a strain on the water that is used there for water supply. We're seeing the groundwater levels decrease, and this affects people who rely on taking water with their hand pumps for getting a safe water supply. And then with climate change, we're going to see the weather patterns are going to change. This is going to affect water going into the water resources, and we need to adapt as these changes come along. We'll also see populations movements. This will put new stress on water supplies, and disease patterns such as cholera will change, and we'll have to respond to these. So there are many challenges ahead.
Mr. Edward, we're running out of time, but just in 30 seconds, real quick, tell me how the focus on this year's World Water Day is on transboundary waters. Tell us how this is affecting the world water crisis.
This is an important issue because 40% of the world's population live in countries that have shared river basins or lake basins, and about 2 billion people are also affected in countries that have shared aquifers. So this affects a lot of people. And it's also said that future conflicts are going to be about water resources, but we see this World Water Day as an opportunity to pledge towards taking a collective approach to solving the problems. And we have seen this happen in the past as well. So water can be a source for peace and understanding as well.
Mr. Edward, thank you so much for joining us from New York, from the UN. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the issue of water.
Well, thanks for getting us some first-hand source on the update and the status of getting clean water around the world.
Sure.
All right. Well, that's Lenore Madu, and of course, always you can catch her on In Focus every Thursday and Tuesday for the latest health news right here on In Focus. And for more information on these stories, please go to voanews.com/TV2Africa.